Tonight, the election is called. Campaigning already underway, 6 weeks for Australia to decide. Pub arguments and feet on the streets, Sydney's most marginal seat set to play a key role. Homicide detectives on the hunt for Oxford Street brawlers and the missing video as the victim's family prepares to make a heartbreaking call. Commuter chaos just hours away, bus drivers say it's all about getting a fair go. An elderly couple pulled from a burning wreck with just seconds to spare. The local drop suddenly in a legal stoush with Coca-Cola and a music legend's estate. And the Sharks send the Tigers further into turmoil as a pitch invader crashes the party in Cronulla.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. It's on. After weeks of speculation, millions of Australians will head to the polls on May the 21st to elect our next federal government. The 6-week campaign is already underway tonight, with Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese wasting no time launching their blitz in key battlegrounds.
The pandemic Prime Minister makes his pitch for a second term.
It's a choice between a strong future and an uncertain one.
Determined his government won't become the next COVID casualty, acknowledging its failings.
Our government is not perfect. We've never claimed to be. But we are up front.
And up front that his own popularity's gone down, but trying to convince voters it isn't about him.
This election is about you, no one else.
Leaving Kirribilli shortly before 9 this morning, boarding his jet in Sydney for the quick flight to Canberra. And then the Prime Ministerial election procession. 7 News following his convoy through the streets of Canberra, down tree-lined Dunrussell Drive, and a rowdy reception outside Government House, asking Governor-General David Hurley to dissolve the 46th Parliament and setting off on the campaign of his political life before a weary electorate.
I get it that people are tired of politics as we go into this election.
Yet opting for more politics, a longer campaign, 6 weeks, polling day May 21. As the election circus begins, Anthony Albanese with partner Jodie Hayden mixing not with political animals but real ones at Sydney's Royal Easter Show.
They were born last Monday.
So they don't get to vote yet.
Beginning his quest to become just the 4th Labor leader to win an election from opposition since World War II.
Who are you? And who are you?
Promising a different kind of leadership.
I am who I am. I'm a working class lad. I grew up not far from here in Sydney in public housing. I'm comfortable in a boardroom and I'm comfortable in a pub.
If Scott Morrison loses just 1 seat, he loses majority government with it. His first campaign stop here in the New South Wales South Coast seat of Gilmore, one of the key marginals he'll need to win if he's to cling to power. Emphasising what he says are the risks of change, trying to build a fear of the unknown.
But we're not out of the woods yet, and Australians know it. There's still a lot of uncertainty ahead.
Pushing his government's economic achievements, warning now's not the time for change.
It's a choice between a government you know and a Labor opposition that you don't.
Anthony Albanese says voters do know the Morrison government all too well.
He's running an election campaign whereby his Deputy Prime Minister has said he's a hypocrite and a liar.
But it's not all new ideas, recycling a major theme from Mark Latham's disastrous 2004 campaign.
Australians are ready, Labor's ready, and I'm ready.
I'm ready, we are ready, and Australia is ready.
And now it's ready, set,
Hey ho, let's go.
Off to work they go.
And political editor Mark Riley joins me now from Nowra. Mark, what are the real keys to victory in this campaign?
Well, Mark, the real key is who wins the defining debate of this campaign, and that is the question of whether there's a case for change versus the risks of change. Both sides concede there is a general frustration in the community over the rising costs of living, over the way COVID has changed our lives, and a whole range of other issues. Anthony Albanese is saying the only way to address that is to change the government. Scott Morrison says changing the government, as you just heard, comes with big risks. But really the tail of the tape, as it always is in the numbers. All the major polls have the government between 8 and 10 points behind as we start this campaign. Both sides privately conceding that this is Labor's election to win or lose. Mark?
Mark Riley in Narra for us. Thank you. Dozens of MPs are under real threat of being voted out with a hit list of marginal seats for both the Coalition and Labor. Battle lines have been drawn as the 6-week election campaign begins. Political reporter Rob Scott explains.
Australians are gearing up to head to the polls on May 21, and it's going to be a tight race. The Coalition will go on the defensive in Queensland, trying to hold on to 23 seats amid Scott Morrison's unpopularity there and constant fights with Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk. Labor's quietly confident of snatching 9 marginal seats, including Leichhardt, Herbert, Capricornia, Flynn, Longman, Petrie, Dixon, Bowman and Ford. Scott Morrison's home state of New South Wales is where he could win or lose this election. 10 Labor seats are on his radar, including Macquarie, Gilmore, Hunter, Parramatta and Richmond. But the Liberal seats of Reid and Lindsay are at risk of turning red. The Prime Minister also has to worry about the uprising of independents, with Wentworth and North Sydney in their sights. Chisholm in Victoria is a must-win for Labor. It's held by Gladys Liu for the Liberals on a razor-thin margin of just 0.5%. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg's seat of Kooyong is also under threat from an independent, so too is Goldstein. Tasmania will be the all-important swing state, and holding on to Bass and Braddon will be critical to the Coalition's chances of retaining power, with the Liberals also hoping to seize Lyons from Labor. Over in Western Australia, there are 11 Coalition seats. Former Attorney General Christian Porter's resignation amid sexual harassment allegations leaves Pearce an open target, and Steve Irons' retirement leaves Swan vulnerable. Labor fancies its chances in Hasluck and Tangi, hoping to capitalise on Premier Mark McGowan's huge popularity. So, a big few weeks of frenetic campaigning ahead, and it could all come down to a delicate power balance for whoever wins office, as Australia votes for the next Prime Minister.
Now, a number of those battleground seats in Sydney could be won or lost by just a few votes, with candidates wasting no time getting to work. Serena Andaloro is in the Prime Minister's seat of Cook this evening. Serena, we are certainly off and running.
That's right, Mark. Didn't take long for things to kick off across key suburbs in Sydney. Red shirts and blue shirts were out trying to win votes. And when we asked people what their big ticket election issues were, inevitably the Prime Minister's performance was front and centre. While here in Cook he is quite comfortable, we're in Cronulla, it is his heartland. Elsewhere it is going to be a razor-tight race with not a second to spare. A Labor army hits the ground in the country's most marginal electorate, Macquarie.
Say hello and why we love Susan so much.
All paws on deck, politics even splitting mates at the local.
Yeah, he's talking about one man. Yeah, I know it's the leader.
It's all about two men at the moment.
No.
It's not about policies, it's about two men.
Well, you've got to look at policy.
The race so tight here, it's a matter of exactly 371 votes.
It's very, very close. But, you know, Susan's a fighter and she's ready for it.
This is going to be my first time voting, actually. So I'm excited to hear both sides of the story.
It's a tough cohort, those in Windsor and the Hawkesbury battered by COVID and floods. Now they have their chance to turn up the heat.
We have a lot coming here and they're being really down. Yeah, they're really struggling. Yeah.
Meanwhile, West Ryde was quickly swamped by a sea of blue.
Here we go again. Another year, another election, you know, we've seen the same stuff over and over again.
Liberal candidate Simon Kennedy hearing complaints from businesses.
Short all the staff.
Yeah, we need to get more staff. We're looking at increasing immigration this year to get more staff.
The Prime Minister earning sympathy at the shops.
At the end of the day, there's always something that we can criticise.
I think he's done his run. I think we need something new.
And on the Bay Run, in the battleground of Reid, Scott Morrison...
I don't want to comment on that.
But plenty did.
I think Scott Morrison should probably just step aside.
I couldn't really trust him as far as I could throw him.
The diverse seat also taking in working class suburbs like Lidcombe.
Oh, he's a good man.
A challenge for current Liberal member Fiona Martin, who's fighting Conservatives in her own camp. Dirt units already hard at work. In Fairfield, Labor signs are being defaced, ripped down. And in Wentworth, the independent trend is gaining followers. Allegra Spender, fashion icon Carla Zampatti's daughter, throwing her stylish hat in the ring. But ultimately, among mums and dads,
I sort of switched off a while ago.
the challenge for all camps will be cutting through. Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
And 7 News is your home for all the latest election coverage on the road with both camps. Everything you need to know as Australia decides. There are warnings of a nightmare trip to work tomorrow as bus drivers from several private companies walk off the job. Liam Tapper is at Wynyard for us tonight. Liam, there'll be reduced services across much of Sydney.
Yes, good evening to you, Mark. The 3 bus companies involved tomorrow are hoping to run to either a Saturday or school holiday timetable, but at this stage, not even that is guaranteed. The strike is set to involve thousands of drivers across the network from 3 privately owned operators. They are Transdev, Transit Systems, as well as Comfort Del Gro. The regions that will be impacted are the Sutherland Shire, Western Sydney, Northern Sydney, the Hills District, as well as the Blue Mountains. Now, the unions say they're fighting for 2 things. They want equal pay as well as better conditions.
We've got this 2-tiered system across the state now. We need equality, we need fairness, and it has to be based on safety.
Now, while special event buses will run to the Easter show, it's expected that roads will be busier and trains more congested. So, Mark, the tip is, if you can, to work from home tomorrow.
Liam Tapper in the city for us. Thank you. The family of a 23-year-old man knocked unconscious in a brawl outside a popular Surrey Hills pub is trying to come to terms with the heartbreaking news that he will not survive. Evander Tuala was viciously attacked on Oxford Street. Police have already charged 2 men and are vowing to hunt down the others involved.
It's aggressive, out of control, and fueled by alcohol. An all-in brawl on Oxford Street as 2 groups clash in Surrey Hills. Security do all they can to separate them as patrons film the violence. But what the camera doesn't show is what no parent ever wants to see. A 23-year-old man, son, brother, friend, knocked unconscious, lying on the ground.
The young man was struck outside the Oxford Street premises, and unfortunately is now fighting for his life with critical head injuries.
Evander Tuala is tonight barely hanging on. His life support soon to be switched off. His family, one by one, saying goodbye. His auntie posting online, "You came into this world and brought so much love into our family. You were stolen from us like a thief in the night."
The family would be devastated, and our thoughts go out to them.
2 20-year-old men allegedly involved, Byron Brown and Caden Donovan Phillips, both tonight behind bars, charged with a fray. Police say the brawl was sparked following an altercation inside the hotel. Up to 15 people then spilled out onto the street. Detectives are hoping to track down each one of them in hope of finding the offender who dealt the fatal blow.
We've got a large number of detectives working on this job, including the homicide squad, which is currently assisting us. Come to us rather than us come to you.
Bill Hogan, 7 News.
It's only been a short visit, but Princess Anne's trip to Sydney has already had a big impact. Today, the Princess Royal met with the families of 2 firefighting volunteers who lost their lives protecting others, a moment that meant so much to those still grieving.
Sporting a navy blazer and trousers at New South Wales Rural Fire Service headquarters, a casual Princess Anne was greeted and briefed on catastrophic bushfires and floods.
Just over half of the landmass of England itself burnt in New South Wales in that 2019-20.
The Princess Royal also met with firefighters and victims.
Thank you for allowing me to join you today. But to also remember those that did have to sacrifice their lives.
There was a second princess here today. Charlotte O'Dwyer was surprised Anne was not wearing a tiara, among other things.
Where's her dress? Did you ask her her dress was?
She was wearing pants, wasn't she?
Charlotte's father, Andrew, was killed fighting the 2019 Buxton bushfire alongside Jeff Keaton.
I think it was very nice that she took the time out to acknowledge us.
My son's death must have meant something.
She kind of agreed with us that what he was doing was a great thing.
She did it with such ease, with such grace.
And always with an audience, including some walking to the show next door.
The Royal Easter Show, and you saw royalty.
And we saw royalty, so it's very exciting.
As much as Princess Anne is a very important person, some things clearly are still more important. A helicopter tour was planned for areas south of Sydney ravaged by floodwaters, but it was canned in case the helicopter might be needed.
No royal tour of Sydney ever avoids the harbour. Today included a visit to the Sea Heritage Foundation to learn about the maritime training ship MV Cape Don. Royal watchers were following.
She's the royalist.
Oh, well, I quite like the fashion, really.
Cocktail dresses were the fashion at Sydney's Government House, a regal backdrop for a garden party, the Princess Royal's final appointment to thank organisations she patronises.
We're actually part of Riding for the Disabled.
She's a horse lover, so we got an invite.
Tomorrow, after a tour of the Royal Australian Corps, it's off to Papua New Guinea. Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
As floodwaters slowly recede across Western Sydney, bridges at Windsor and North Richmond are now open to traffic. Warragamba Dam continues to spill and the Hawkesbury River is still expected to remain above the minor flood level at North Richmond until Tuesday. Yarramundi Bridge remains closed and Windsor Road and Pitttown Road are also cut. Time to check the latest weather details now. Angie, the break in the rain will continue for a while.
Mark, clear skies ahead to start the working week tomorrow. Today's also been mostly fine. The radar shows only a light sprinkle across Sydney this morning, 0.5 millimetre at Allambie and Belrose on the northern beaches. Also a drop around Seven Hills and Woodville a little further inland. But this is how most of Sydney spent today, under partly cloudy skies with not a drop of rain. Conditions only improved as the day went on with some lovely long sunny breaks. Gorgeous temperatures too under that sunshine with light easterly winds, a top of 25.4 degrees in the CBD and 26.6 at Penrith. There certainly isn't another deluge on the way this week for Sydney or statewide, in fact, but a few showers are in the forecast. I'll have all those details a little bit later, Mark.
See you then, Angie. Thank you. Hero cops risking their lives to save an elderly couple. After the break, a caravan crash, incredible scenes as they're pulled from the burning wreck. Top secret mission as Boris Johnson visits a devastated Kyiv. Imran Khan out, the Pakistan Prime Minister forced from office. Later, David vs Goliath and Goliath, the two giants going after an Aussie winemaker. And a driver goes flying, his family stuck in the car, but everyone survived. That's... Welcome back. A couple aged in their 80s have escaped the wreck of their burning caravan with just seconds to spare thanks to quick-thinking police. Video from the officer's body cam showed the dramatic rescue after a crash on the Southwestern Highway 140 kilometres south of Perth.
Undo your seatbelt! Undo your seatbelt! Go! I'm so glad to see you alive.
Just moments after they were freed, the fuel tank exploded. Boris Johnson has walked the streets of Kyiv with Britain offering more weapons to help Ukraine. He's the latest world leader to visit Volodymyr Zelensky as Ukraine warns of increased fighting in the eastern part of the country. The British Prime Minister's visit kept secret before his arrival.
I think that the Ukrainians have shown the courage of a lion, but you, Volodymyr, have given the roar of that lion.
The UK will send more than 100 armoured vehicles and 800 anti-tank missiles to the war zone. Following Russia's retreat from northern Ukraine, civilians are telling stories of mass kidnappings and assassinations by snipers. Entire towns are now just rubble, with many forced to survive on the streets.
Does life ever return to normal after a war is fought in your town? This is Hostomel, population 17,000. At least that was the population. The major employer was a glass factory. Hundreds here are unaccounted for. Many are dead. The Russians attacked Hostomel from the air in the opening days of the war before a ground battle that lasted weeks. The people who are hiding underground have emerged to discover what's left of their homes and learn their lives have changed again. They're now cooking outside, using an abandoned Russian generator to charge their phones. How long do you think you'll be living like this? The local council has told them 4 months, Alexei says. He can't quite believe it either. A long time to live with the reminders of what's happened here all around you. People here tell us they were offered the chance to leave by the Russians, but only to go to Belarus. They think some of those missing were taken there as prisoners. It wasn't just the fear of artillery and shelling that gripped this town, or the fact the Russians were in control, but what people couldn't see. The occupying soldiers told them if they went outside, snipers would shoot. That's what happened to Yuri Prolivko.
Yuri Ilyich, наш мэр.
Yuri, our mayor. Yuri, my friend, the local priest tells me. Now buried in a makeshift grave in the churchyard. Father Peter tells me how he waved a white flag above his head while retrieving Yuri's booby-trapped body. The mayor had been out delivering aid to residents during the Russian occupation. He believes the soldiers couldn't bring themselves to kill a priest. He spray-painted messages in the streets, pleading for mercy, but the church itself didn't escape shelling or bullets. Putin is even worse than Hitler, he says, admitting people he's never seen come to church have suddenly decided to visit. So many prayers waiting to be answered. In Hostomel, Ukraine, Hugh Whitfeld, 7 News.
Imran Khan has been sensationally ousted as Prime Minister of Pakistan after losing a no-confidence motion in Parliament. One of the country's greatest cricketers, Khan was removed as leader after MPs voted in a late-night session. The 69-year-old took power 4 years ago, but recently lost his parliamentary majority when allies quit his coalition. A new Prime Minister will be voted in this week. A family of 5 has had a very lucky escape in Argentina after a train smashed into their car on a railroad crossing outside Buenos Aires. Footage shows the male driver trying to push the stalled vehicle across the track, only to be sent flying through the air. His wife and 3 children were in the car at the time. All 5 escaped with just minor injuries. A pitch invader left to regret ticking this off her bucket list. Up next, she broke the rules, but did security go too far? New age crime, drugs paid for with cryptocurrency, the elaborate scheme busted. Tourists arrive at the International Space Station, their $73 million ticket to the stars.
And ahead in sport, unstoppable on moving day, Cameron Smith within striking distance of Masters glory.
Welcome back. There was a major security scare at the NRL game at Shark Park this afternoon. The contest between Cronulla and the West Tigers halted when a man holding a flare managed to get dangerously close to players. He was eventually dragged away by security as the flare was put out with a fire extinguisher. Last night on the Gold Coast, a woman disrupted the match between the Titans and the Eels. She was taken down in a bone-crunching tackle.
I thought they probably should have taken her down a little bit easier than that. But anyway, you're on the field. Open slather, I suppose.
While the security guard's actions are under review, the woman has said it was her life's goal to run onto a football field. A leaked memo has raised more concerns about the new Emerald-class ferries that ply the route between Circular Quay and Manly. Ferry masters have been warned that in heavy swells they run the risk of becoming airborne near the heads if they travel directly into the waves. There has been an ongoing row over the suitability of the smaller ferries that are replacing the larger freshwater class. Police say they've busted a sophisticated money laundering and drug operation, seizing nearly $5 million in cash converted from cryptocurrency. 3 men have been charged and officers are warning more arrests are likely.
Friday afternoon in Mascot. Police pull over this black BMW. But it's not the driving that's caught the attention of detectives. This parcel, far from an ordinary delivery. Finding wads of cash, allegedly the proceeds of a sophisticated operation worth at least $4.7 million.
This is the first time we've seen this detailed vertical integration business model.
That operation, police say, starts with drugs being imported from overseas, refined and then sold across the country using cryptocurrency. And this machine is used to convert it to cash.
That cash has then been laundered through various networks back overseas to continue the cycle.
In Redfern, another man was also detained. Detectives there found more cash, drugs and a box
full of postal envelopes addressed to people throughout Australia.
2 men have been charged and granted bail to face court next month, while a third man will remain behind bars until his matter is heard again in June.
This is a spectacular success for Australian law enforcement.
Buyers are also being warned they'll be next.
There are people who are expecting drugs to be supplied to them this week through the mail or won't be arriving, and they may be getting visits from police.
Matthew Carstunen, 7 News.
The war in Ukraine is dominating the first stage of the presidential election in France, with voters heading to the polls to decide which 2 candidates will face off in a final round. Sarah Greenouch joins me now from Paris. Sarah, has Emmanuel Macron's handling of the crisis helped his re-election chances?
Mark, it certainly seemed that way a few weeks ago, but right now, as voting does get underway, his team here is nervous. Emmanuel Macron put all his energy into dealing with Putin's war in Ukraine. And initially, those diplomatic efforts did pay off. It led to a surge in the polls. But as the price of food and petrol here has continued to rise, voters have realised this conflict is affecting their daily lives, and their leader has been somewhat absent. Macron's main rival, Marine Le Pen, has seized on this, closing the gap. She is far right, anti-immigration, but has softened her image and her rhetoric and campaigned hard on the cost of living. She has also successfully managed to deflect attention away from her close ties with Vladimir Putin, the Russian president who publicly backed her campaign in 2017. Voting in this country is not compulsory, and the turnout today is expected to be lower than usual. There are actually 12 candidates in this first round. It is the top 2 who will then go head-to-head later this month. And the French have a saying, it is that this round is for voting with one's heart, the next round with one's head. Mark?
OK, Sarah Greenouch in Paris. Thank you. It's history in space, but this is no 10-minute joyride. Paying customers are now on board the International Space Station, where they'll stay for the next 8 days. It's a mission they hope will make it easier for others to follow, but it might also need to be much more affordable.
Ignition. Stop. Go Falcon, go Dragon. Godspeed, Axiom 1.
Liftoff for a first-time mission. SpaceX shuttling 3 private paying customers to the International Space Station for the first time.
6 meters in closing.
This morning, their capsule docking 400 kilometres above the Atlantic Ocean.
And there we are.
A real estate mogul from Ohio, a Canadian investor, and a former Israeli fighter pilot escorted by a former NASA astronaut. But first, Houston had a problem.
Expect a hold at waypoint 2 for ISS troubleshooting.
The team forced to wait 20 metres from the ISS for about an hour. Once on board,
I'm thrilled and honoured to be up here, and the responsibility is for this first civilian crew to get it right.
Each paid $73 million for the 10-day trip. They'll carry out research and demonstrations to help a private company build its own commercial space station. The aim? To one day make this ticket to the stars available to more than the millionaires. In the United States, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
From the Wimbledon of wood chopping to drifting across the showground, just ahead the real wild rides of the Easter show, we take you on board. Dancing through the dust, the famous race in a tiny town makes its long-awaited return. The world's biggest drinks company and a pop superstar's estate trying to stop this Aussie drop.
Soon in sport, another injury blow for Latrell. Sowers a much-needed win for Souths.
And the sunshine rolls on tomorrow. Tuesday signals the start of another grey change, though. The week ahead in detail soon.
Welcome back. People are being urged to open their purse strings to help Ukraine tonight at a fundraising event in Sydney South. The council-approved gathering is taking place at a park in North Cronulla. Those attending have been urged to wear the Ukrainian national colours of blue and yellow. Our own Chris Reason is among the speakers talking about his time in Ukraine covering the invasion. In its bicentennial year, Sydney's Royal Easter Show is paying a nod to the past with the return of some old acts like chariot motorbikes that haven't been seen for decades. There's also the chance to interact with a special brand of street performers.
Behind the tricks of the show, it's all about expertise.
It's a bit old world and celebrating the fact that the show's been going for 200 years.
New this year, ladder bikes based on performances from a century ago.
The police actually had their own motorcycle stunt team back in the 20s and 30s. The ladder bikes and the chariot bikes was actually part of their stunt show.
One event that's never gone out of style is the wood chopping. One competition every 8 minutes, 500,000 spectators over 12 days.
Here we are at the Wimbledon of wood chopping.
Retired legend David Foster returning this year to crown world champions.
I won my first world title here in 1979. I've won 60 world titles here at the Sydney Showground.
But it's not the only competitive spirit on display. A precision driving contest between this Holden Commodore and Ford Falcon was centre stage at the main arena.
It's going to be fierce, yeah. There's no holds barred between the two of us.
This battle involves skidding and drifting at speeds of more than 100 kilometres an hour. In just 10 minutes, one of us will be crowned winner. An extra passenger put Ford at a disadvantage. The Commodore came out on top. Top prize for effort. Angelique Opie, 7 News.
The outback town of Birdsville has exploded, with thousands making the trek to the Simpson Desert for the historic race meeting. It's the first time in the event's 140-year history that 2 race meetings are being held in the same year. COVID meant last September's races had to be bumped to this month.
Yeah, look, we haven't done it since September 2019, so we're pretty excited, and it's weird to have a Birdsville races in April. But
the races continue tomorrow. When you hear the words Purple Rain, what comes to mind? If it's a pop legend Prince or even soft drink, then that's the problem. A little Aussie winemaker in a big battle with 2 global heavyweights. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News. But now Matt is here with sport, and Matt, more pain for the Tigers.
Yeah, not going great for them, Fergo, that's for sure. There was another big crowd in the Shire this afternoon to watch the Sharks deliver some unwanted history to the West Tigers. Details next. Plus, Cam Smith is closing in on Australia's second Masters title, cutting the gap to the green jacket. And Nick's big blow-up. The chair umpire cops another foul-mouthed spray. Cronulla remain unbeaten at the redeveloped Shark Park after condemning the West Tigers to their 5th straight defeat. It's the joint venture's worst ever start to a season. The Sharks were below their best but still cruised to their 4th win in a row.
The Tigers arrived at Shark Park only to lose Dane Laurie to a positive COVID test. Not ideal for a coach under pressure.
We all say it's just noise, but reality is it's living around you as you're going through your coaching.
Deputising at fullback, Stafford Toa made a nervy start and Britton Nakora cashed in. 6-0 could have been 10, but Toa did enough to deny Ronaldo Mulatalo.
A great save by Toa.
There was no saving Kelma Tuilangi.
Oh, Tuilangi!
Braden Hamlin-Ueli on report. Tuilangi off for a concussion test he somehow passed. Sione Katoa's double made it 14-0 at the break.
Katoa for a second, he's over again!
A rare entry into the 20-metre zone in the second half ended with the Tigers giving away a 7-tackle set. It's no surprise what happened next.
On for Mulatalo, and Cronulla's gone the length.
Then an unlikely source of respite for the Tigers. A flare-wielding pitch invader delayed the game for several minutes.
Well, this is quite extraordinary.
A second intruder sent security scurrying to the other end. The break didn't help the Tigers.
Gildup lets it go.
Or hinder the Sharks.
Now Robian, he does it all himself, slams it down.
Cameron McInnes put Will Kennedy away for try number 6. A Ken Mamalo intercept in the final minute, giving the Tigers their first try in 2.5 matches. Nick Markham, 7 News.
It's a big one tonight. The Bulldogs and the Panthers, and it's on.
Kick out, taps it backwards. Cleary does well. Volley balls to May. Tago for the corner.
That one was disallowed for Isaac Tago, but soon, despite some fierce resistance from Canterbury, Taylor May had the Panthers' first try for a 6-0 lead. It's been fiery, but this new-look Penrith left edge keep turning it on. May put Tago away. Dylan Edwards finished, and the Premiers are away again. Latrell Mitchell is expected to miss at least a fortnight with his latest hamstring injury, suffered in last night's win over the Dragons. Some Souths players were unhappy with recently relayed parts of Stadium Australia, but Jason Demetrio says Latrell was just unlucky.
You could see obviously they've relayed some parts of it, but I think it's just an accident. It's one of those things that happen.
Yeah, there's been a bit of rain about, so it wasn't too bad.
Eels co-captain Junior Paulo faces at least a one-game ban for a high tackle in last night's 26-20 win over the Titans, and Warriors winger Marcelo Montoya has been referred straight to the judiciary for using a homophobic slur in their win over the Cowboys. The Roosters are celebrating an incredible run to their maiden NRLW premiership after nearly missing the finals. The Dragons scored in the second minute of this afternoon's grand final in Redcliffe, a decider dominated by desperate and brutal defence. The Tricolours broke the game open in the second half, scoring 3 tries to get home 16 points to 4.
The Sydney Roosters from nowhere sneak into the finals and are premiers for the first time.
Sarah Togatuki won the Karen Murphy Medal for Player of the Match. The Roosters also defeated 3-time premiers the Broncos on their way to the title. They're calling it the biggest weekend sporting event in Australian history, the return of the Formula One Grand Prix. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc won from start to finish, and Daniel Ricciardo celebrated his first home race in 3 years. More than 420,000 fans over 4 days. The Grand Prix's back.
It's nuts, mate. It's nuts. All week it's been nuts.
A quiet moment for the hometown hero before green lights.
Away we go. Decent start from Charles Leclerc.
One Ferrari flew ahead, the other went spinning out.
What a horrible start.
A long, lonely walk for Carlos Sainz. Daniel Ricciardo settled in behind teammate Lando Norris. Sebastian Vettel hit the wall.
That's highly unusual.
Then trouble for Max Verstappen.
That's not some weird fluid. Everything is itself.
The world champions Red Bull caught fire, while Leclerc gave Ferrari a record 13th Australian Grand Prix.
Let's go, come on, yes!
A 34-point championship lead after 3 races from the man from Monaco. Ricciardo was 6th, his first points of the season.
Why is it so black here? Is that my brake dust? Am I braking too much? Pushing for a championship, you know.
Oof. Trouble for Shane Van Gisbergen in the supercars.
And that tyre's gone. That has blown.
A happy 30th birthday for Chaz Mostert.
That's what you got to do. You got to try and put Shane under pressure.
Still third, 162 points behind, and 6 wins to 3 to SVG. But a battle's brewing.
It's the first little mistake.
Cameron Smith is within striking distance of becoming Australia's second Masters champion. The only player to break 70 in a brutal third round, Smith cut Scotty Scheffler's lead to just 3 shots. He'll play with the world number 1 as the final pair tomorrow morning.
An unseasonably shivering 10 degrees with bitter, howling wind chill. Ask Billy Horschel or Adam Scott and Tiger Woods how tough it was today. Scott shot 80, his worst round there in 18 years.
That is holding up there by a prayer.
In clear pain, Tiger gamely battled on for a 78, his worst ever round at Augusta.
I thought it was tough. I mean, some of the other guys may not say that.
You'd sell everyone par at the start of on the first tee.
That tells the brilliance of Smith to beat par by 4.
Oh, again, it's going to be good. Look at this.
Mullet flapping in the wind, nothing less than masterful from the 28-year-old Queenslander.
Cam Smith for birdie.
Even with freezing hands.
I had hand warmers all day, but I don't think they help.
Like all his heroes, Smith's now the one we'll wake and watch, trying to emulate that magical morning 9 years ago when Scott won Australia's only green jacket.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've been watching this tournament since I can remember, so hopefully everyone gets up early and I can make some birdies.
Scotty Scheffler led by 6 into the back 9, almost too calm.
And that's the shot of a champion.
Not yet. At 18, the 25-year-old world number 1 hit a drive that may have cost all sleep, and his lead was down to 3. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
There are calls for Nick Kyrgios to be suspended after yet another on-court blow-up, this time in the semi-finals of the Houston Open.
I don't know from here.
What do you mean you don't know from there? Where are you supposed to sit then if you can't see it?
That's why I put it in.
Who's out, bro? Dude, this man, I'm not playing. Just calm it up.
Kyrgios lost to Riley Opelka in straight sets. The Aussie has already amassed more than $80,000 in fines for meltdowns in Miami and Indian Wells. In the Premier League, Manchester United were stunned 1-0 by relegation battlers Everton. Frustrated and limping after a nasty challenge, Cristiano Ronaldo smacked the mobile phone out of a supporter's hand. Ronaldo later apologised on social media. The 1-0 defeat leaves United's top four hopes in tatters. A couple of cranky athletes there. I totalled it up, how much money Nick Kyrgios has been fined over the years, $438,000. Maybe a suspension is the answer. And Fergo, before I let you go, come on, Cam Smith.
Go, Cam Smith. It's going to be an early morning.
It is.
Thanks, Servo. It's a David versus Goliath battle over an Aussie drop. The makers of a sulphate-free wine are vowing to fight to keep their brand Purple Rain. They've survived a legal challenge from the estate of the late singer Prince, but are now battling a real global giant.
A WA company behind the world's first purple wine, taking on the Prince who reigned the charts. Two mates received a cease and desist from his estate over their signature drop, Purple Rain.
So we thought, nah, it's got to be a joke. Two Aussie battlers trying to fight a dead man.
They agreed to change their name in the US and European markets, their pockets not deep enough to take on Prince's purse, but they're now digging deep to take on another global force. Rain Beverages, which is owned by a cashed-up conglomerate, Coca-Cola. That battle is still in play over claims the wine is highly similar in overall appearance and conception.
Rain. More than just total body fuel.
The company couldn't be contacted today.
Tim and Roscoe say they've spent tens of thousands of dollars defending their brand. The invoices from lawyers are piling up, but they're vowing to keep fighting until their barrel runs dry.
Companies with a lot of resources can basically shut you down just by way of having deep pockets and a lot of lawyers.
Bigger companies will try and crush any opposition that they have. So it's often the case that they're not right and they do need to be challenged.
Hoping lawyers don't rain on Purple Rain's parade. Cassidy Moscone, 7 News.
Now Angie's back with the forecast. Ange, we'll begin the working week with more sunshine.
Mark, our Monday forecast is looking superb. The rest of the working week, not quite so good. Details next.
Tonight, 7 News headlines. Australia will go to the polls on May the 21st. Both leaders already on the campaign trail. And a major bus strike is said to cause commuter chaos right across Sydney tomorrow. Now here's Angie with Sydney's weather.
Thank you, Mark. Today has been a superb autumn day. Most suburbs enjoyed partly cloudy conditions, no rainfall at all. Areas that did see a sprinkle recorded less than a millimetre. Now, the top of the CBD was a very comfortable 25.4 degrees. That followed a low of 17.5. It has been quite humid, though, hovering above 70% all day. Temperatures across the suburbs very consistent, around the mid-20s. Penrith was the warmest, 27. A lovely day in the mountains too, reaching a top of 20 degrees. The latest satellite image shows cloud-free conditions over our state. A trough is moving away to the west while a cold front looms in the south. Tomorrow the cold front just clips southern New South Wales. That will bring cooler southerly winds along the coast, but overall high pressure remains, so more sunshine to come. Around the capitals, plenty of sunshine for Brisbane, warm 29 degrees, but that cold front will impact the southeast with a top of just 18 degrees for Melbourne with some morning showers, Hobart overcast and just 16. Back home, a few showers and the chance of a storm about the southeast later in the day as that change sweeps through. The rest of the state remains dry and mostly sunny after some morning fog patches. Temperatures looking pretty good, well above average in the west, 32 degrees at Bourke and 29 degrees forecast for Griffith. Zooming in on the metro region, there is the chance of a morning fog. However, that will burn off to reveal another sunny day. Warm too, 26 degrees, the top at Mona Vale, 28 for Hornsby, 29 for Camden, Penrith to hit 30. On the water, winds will be light at first before that strengthening southerly change of 20 knots in the afternoon. on a 2.5 metre swell. Beautiful day ahead for the CBD, a warm top of 27 degrees. If we see that late shower, it will be during the evening. From Tuesday, though, the clouds are back along with a couple of showers. That unsettled trend continues for Wednesday and Thursday. Good Friday, Easter Saturday and Easter Sunday, all shaping up nicely at this stage, fine and mild with tops in the mid-20s. So a big improvement on this time last week, Mark.
Nice to say, it's looking good, Ange.
It is.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Labor leader Anthony Albanese will join Nat and Koshy tomorrow on the first full day of the election campaign. Their live pitch to voters from 5:30 on Sunrise. That is 7 News for this Sunday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening. I'm Mark Ferguson from all the team. I hope you have a great night.